Alexa, what's the weather today?
In Strongsville, it's -6 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies. Today, you can look for snow flurries, with a high of 14 degrees and a low of -6 degrees. Also, there's a cold weather advisory in effect from Friday, January 30th, 7 p.m. to Saturday, January 31st, 11 a.m.
It's -6 degrees outside and I'm going out to feed the birds. Wilma, and I want to continue my talk about weight loss again. I just read the second chapter in the book that I talked about earlier, Metabolic Freedom by Ben Azadi, and I just want to talk about some of the stuff I learned in that chapter. And hopefully it'll help you too if you're in a weight loss challenge like I am. Basically, it's some of the key points that I read in this were that your metabolism can create energy from a number of things. Your food, your glycogen stores, the glucose in your bloodstream, and the ketones that your liver makes. But when we eat a lot of junk food and consume a lot of sweets, it limits our body's ability to burn energy from these other things. And it pretty much restricts us to exclusively burning glucose, which is in most of the junk food in the form of sugar. So if you're constantly burning sugar, you're not getting a chance to burn, for your body to burn energy from these other stores. He talks about 5 healing benefits of a flexible metabolism. Creating adaptation through hormetic stress. And hormetic stress is when you exercise vigorously and then you're sore the next day. That's a stress on your body, but it's a good stress. But he talks about it achieving a balance of hormetic stress. You don't want to overdo it too much and injure your body, or too little to where you don't achieve any benefits. So it's finding that balance of hormetic stress that's good for your body. Alternating between the repair pathways and the growth pathways. When we fast, we encourage our body to repair because it doesn't have to do anything else. It's just like, okay, I'm not digesting any food now, so let me go ahead and repair. Or the growth pathways. But if you're constantly consuming food, it's telling your body to grow, and in the form of storing the fat. So, you have a choice what you want to do there. The next one is supporting your mitochondria. And he talks about all the billions of mitochondria you have and how you can support them, which is good. There's a lot of technical information in this book, but it's good because he's talking about things that are beneath all the weight loss rules that we've always heard. Regenerating neurons in your brain and repairing your gut microbiome by creating biodiversity. That's my train of thought. Repairing your gut microbiome will help greatly in weight loss because your gut is your immune system, and if your immune system is going after all the bad free radicals and everything in your system, that's a good thing. You need that. You need that to happen. So then he talks about creating adaptation through hormetic stress, and he explains hormetic stress, how fasting and ketosis are an example of hormetic stress. Yes, fasting. He says, yes, fasting stresses your body, but it's only a bad stress when you don't properly adapt to it. So if you're a person that has a hard time fasting, some people have an easy time fasting. Some people have a hard time fasting. You want to find that in between. Like, you're not going to, like their first time fasting, don't do a 24-hour fast. Do a 12-hour fast. Make sure, like, if you're used to eating at night, eat your supper and don't eat anything until the next morning at breakfast, 12 hours later. So if your supper's at 6 o'clock, don't eat any breakfast until 6 o'clock the next morning. And then, try that a few times a week. If you're getting up in the middle of the night and getting a sandwich out of the fridge, or snacks or cookies late at night at 10:30 or midnight, and then you're wondering why you're not losing weight, well, that's why you're not losing weight right there. And then after you do the 12 hours, then maybe try to increase it a little more, like go a few more hours the next morning and then a few more. You kind of find that sweet spot that's not making you feel sick. So that's kind of what I've been trying to do, like not eating in the morning until I feel like those hunger pangs come, where it's like, yeah, I'm hungry now. It's 10:30 in the morning. I'm ready to eat now, And you don't have to do that every morning, just, a few times a week. Your cells are like old groceries in the fridge that you never, you got to clean it out. You got to get rid of the old stuff once in a while. And if you don't get rid of these old cells, he says they become zombie cells. They start out normal and then they encounter stress, such as damage to their DNA or a viral infection. And then those cells reproduce instead of healthy cells reproducing. And you really don't want that. Talks about autophagy, which is basically the process of cleaning up those unhealthy cells. Then he talks about the mitochondria and how they're so important and critical for survival. And they are like some of the most important cells in our body for our survival, the mitochondria. He talks about cellular threats coming in the form of mental and emotional threats, physical threats, and chemical threats. Now, the word threats meaning like stressors, I think is what he means there. When you're stressed and you're going through something emotional, that can be a stressor on your body. Physical, obviously, if you're, having a virus or something like that, that's a physical stress. And then chemical, things in our environment, cleaning products around the house, or things that are in the overprocessed foods, the things that are in our chemicals that are in our foods that are not technically foods. They're other things that the FDA has said that are like, oh, okay, they did a little, put a blessing on it, say, yeah, you can have so much of this. But is it really good for us? No. It's all those long words at the end of the ingredients in your, when you're looking at the back of the package, all those long words that you can't pronounce. That's what I'm talking about. Things that create a longer shelf life for that item. He says your neurons can get damaged from excess sugar. When you lower the glucose levels in your body, with ketosis and fasting, you begin to repair your neurons. That sounds good. I want to repair my neurons. He says the fuels that power your brain are glucose, ketones, and oxygen via the bloodstream. And he says research has shown that fasting heals the gut. Digesting the food we eat actually requires energy. So when you're digesting, you're actually burning calories. It requires energy. You're burning calories. But if you eat all day long, you're constantly doing that, constantly. And your body never gets a chance to do its repair work. He says 5 conditions metabolic freedom supports. It supports breaking weight loss resistance, preventing cancer, slowing the aging process, reversing autoimmune conditions, and detoxifying your body. I never heard anybody talk about reversing autoimmune conditions. I thought if you had an autoimmune, you're stuck with it. I've never heard anybody talk about that. But he's talking about it. First, breaking weight loss resistance. He says that when you spend too much time in the fed state, meaning feeding yourself, food in your stomach, eating all day long, you remain sugar burning, which signals your metabolism to keep storing the fat. When you spend too much time in the fasted state, your metabolism can see this as a threat to your survival. So it slows your metabolic rate and weakens your immune system. So you want to find that happy medium. Like, if you're talking about calories, don't start out at 800 calorie a day or something. And don't don't eat all day and consume mostly sugar, because that's not going to be good either. I don't know. This whole week I've kind of been trying to stick around 1,500 calories, but I'm not only counting calories. I'm looking at, making sure I get protein, making sure I'm not eating a lot of sugar. And I didn't say no sugar. Yesterday morning I had some little breakfast cookies with a banana, which has got sugar in it. And then at lunch I had tuna and crackers. And for dinner I had spaghetti. And I got on the scale this morning and I was down 1.5 pounds from earlier this week. Maybe like Tuesday I weighed myself or something, He says, when you master the art of switching back and forth between the fed state and the fasted state, this adaptation creates lasting results. When you find that sweet spot, and I use the word sweet, not meaning sweets, but I'm so used to sweets and cookies, that to go cold turkey was not going to work for me. It was not. So I found these breakfast cookies called Belvita, which have a lot of fiber in them, and they're just basic cookies, and there's different flavors. There's chocolate, there's cinnamon, brown sugar, there's a couple different things. And some people will say, well, those are no good. Well, they are good for me, because if I have that in the morning with my coffee, I had that and a banana, I'm satisfied, and I wasn't looking for anything else to eat all morning until lunch, when I had the tuna salad and crackers. And so I think it helps me. It doesn't make me feel like I'm on a diet, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He says anything that strengthens our immune system is an anti-cancer factor, since our immune system is our first line of defense against runaway cells, meaning those zombie ones that he was talking about earlier. The ones that aren't just, they're not quite right. They're not quite right. He says people who have type 2 diabetes and are overweight have an 18% higher risk of cancer than those without type 2 diabetes. So if your doctor's telling you you're pre-diabetic, you know, it's a good, get it under control before you end up with the diabetes. He talks about slowing the aging process in your body. He said your mitochondria love ketones. Ketones are what are created when you fast. Ketones signal to your mitochondria to engage in mitochondrial biogenesis. I don't know what that is. The creation of new healthy mitochondria. Oh, it creates new and healthy mitochondria. And he says fasting is one of the best hormetic stressors for your mitochondria. So remember, hormetic stress is just not getting too carried away with dieting and cutting and a lot of exercise, but finding, this is what I take it to mean, finding that sweet spot where you don't feel like you're starving, but you're not, you know, eating all day long, and you're not eating in the middle of the night. You know, you're doing your dinner, which, you know, you're going to do your portion control for your dinner and everything like that. And you're going to try to make it, you're going to eat clean for dinner. You know, you're going to have, you know, your grilled chicken breast and your green vegetable, you know. Talks about your attitude and your thought process. He says your thoughts are frequencies that have the ability to penetrate your cell membranes and communicate with your DNA nucleus. Who knew? Who knew that your, well, they used to call it stinking thinking, communicates directly with your DNA? I never heard that before. I mean, I knew. He talks about reversing autoimmune conditions. He says, when you think of an autoimmune condition, imagine a three-legged stool. If any leg of the stool is weak, the stool will lose its function by collapsing. Each leg of the stool needs to be addressed. With autoimmune diseases, the three legs of the stool are the gut microbiome, the stressors, and the genetic predisposition. We are going to address all three legs in this book. This is amazing. He says we can absolutely heal our mitochondria and bring in the healthy fats to support cell membrane fluidity. This enables our cells to detox more efficiently. Let's do it. I'm ready to do it. He talks about detoxifying your body, and that many of the toxins in your body just love your fat cells. They are the perfect home for the toxins, the fat cells, which is another reason to get rid of the fat cells, because they're holding onto your toxins. Most people have closed detox pathways, which result in the following common symptoms: brain fog, general and chronic fatigue, constipation, diarrhea, skin abnormalities such as rashes, feeling bloated after eating, and poor sleep. He says these symptoms are common, but they aren't normal. And he says we've always heard that our metabolism slows with age, right? We've heard that all the time. He says your metabolism doesn't have to slow with age. It's a myth that aging alone causes metabolic decline. That's a myth. The truth is, a metabolic efficiency hinges more on lifestyle choices than on the passage of time. It's more about your choices that you make every day. That's good to know, because it puts it back into our control. It puts it back into our control. So anyway, I hope I haven't bored you with all this technical talk. There's a lot more in this if you get this book and read it. But I mean, these are things I've never heard. Of course, I've been out of school for 50 some years. Or not. Anyway, I know it's kind of dry reading, and you're going to be like, oh, am I back in science class when you read this book? But I think it's important, to understand what's happening with your body and why it's happening. And I hope you have a great day, and I hope you're staying warm. And my heart goes out to people that are struggling in this cold. It's not, but it will end. It's going to end. We have, I think, one more week of this, and it's going to be hopefully behind us. The days are getting longer. I'm noticing it's staying later, which is great. And spring is right around the corner. And we got Groundhog's Day coming up. So let's hope he doesn't see that shadow. Let's hope it's a cloudy day when that groundhog comes out of his hole. Now in Ohio, we have, the groundhog is called Buckeye Chuck. In Pennsylvania, it's Punxsutawney Phil. Punxsutawney Phil was the original, I think, because we used to hear about Punxsutawney Phil a long time ago. But now Ohio has its own groundhog, Buckeye Chuck. Anyway, just want to say, keep smiling, keep trying. Don't feel like it's Groundhog Day, where it's like you've tried to lose weight, and here we go again with something else, and here we go again. It's more about up here than what you're putting in your mouth. Stop and think before you I'm going to run out to the kitchen and grab a snack. Stop and think. But I'm preventing my body from healing itself if I do this. So if you know what you're causing your body to do negatively, I think it's helpful. So anyway, okay, that's it. I'm going to go. Bye. Have a good day.